and gentlemen, welcome Street Talk and Other Stuff with Mike Maddog Magnotti. How you like it on this nice Monday morning? It's last Monday in November. What is it, like 4 weeks till Christmas? Christmas is on, well, what is it, 4 weeks from today, I believe. Something like that. It's pretty cool getting into the holiday season. Now, if we only would not get snow, okay? I'm not a snow person, don't like it. I'm sorry. If I ever see snow again, it'll be too soon. But that's how it goes. But hey, I got a good show for you today, but just a couple things. The day before Thanksgiving was the 12th anniversary of my retirement from the police department. It's been that long, you know. But it made me think about some of the things I did. And I used to stop people. One time I stopped a guy, and I said to him, "Sir, do you realize that half a mile back your wife fell out of the car?" And he goes, "Thank God. I thought I was going deaf." And then another time, I pulled the guy over, and 2 o'clock in the morning, and he was obviously a little bit, you know, under the influence. And I said, "Sir, where are you going at 2 o'clock in the morning?" He said, "Well, I'm going to a lecture. So I'm going to a lecture on the dangers of alcohol abuse, smoking, staying out late, and the negative effect all these things have on the human body." And I said, "Who's giving a lecture like that this time of night?" He goes, "Well, that would be my wife." Okay, so I got a good show for you today. I got a great guest. He's a return guest, but he's somebody who like I said, I was looking for an excuse to have him back. So Street Talk and Other Stuff, Mike Maddog Magnotti. Stick around. We'll be right back. So.
Hey everyone, did you know that the NCW Life channel is North Central Washington's go-to source for news? No matter how you prefer to view your news, NCW Life has you covered. Watch the evening news weeknights on TV, stream it, read it at ncwlife.com, or catch the latest news by following us on Facebook. Stay informed with local news, sports, weather, and shows featuring local people and events. NCW Life, a reflection and a spotlight of the communities we call home.
What's your auto mocha emergency?
It's a Frappuccino mocha with whip.
The espresso shakes are my most favorite because I can get any flavor. Peanut butter chocolate for pita.
Definitely the espresso shakes.
My favorite is the mocha for pitas.
A peach Red Bull.
NCW Life Channel is proud to present the Spotlight on Business. We're going behind the scenes to bring you the story of local businesses throughout North Central Washington. How did they get started, and why are they so successful? We'll answer these and other questions each week with Spotlight on Business, Sundays through Fridays on the NCW Life Channel.
Street Talk and Other Stuff, and I've got my good friend, Mr. John Brangwin here.
Thanks for having me back.
Brangwin, well, it's good. It's good to have you. It's been a while.
We're talking about holiday DUIs. I thought I'd get you started. If you drink all that and go home, you'll get one.
Rosie. Well, good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's very kind of you. But I asked Mr. Brangwin here. Actually, we were thinking about maybe another subject, and he said he'd be willing to come on and talk about impaired driving over the holidays, and that's what we decided we do today, because that's kind of your area of expertise, correct?
DUIs are my main practice area, defending DUIs, and it is the holiday season. We do see an uptick in DUIs right now. Emphasis patrols on, and so I thought it would be a good topic. You asked me to come back, and here I am.
Okay, well, before we get into that, just a little bit about yourself, your background, that type of thing, so people know that you're not some heartless defense attorney.
Yeah, I actually am.
So you're actually a nice guy.
Well,
you know?
Not many people say that, but you do, so that's nice. Right, so I was actually born in Germany. My dad
really?
My dad was in the Army and born in '72. So he got to avoid Vietnam by going to the army, by volunteering to go to Germany. So that worked out. So I grew up all over, but I ended up going to undergrad at Central and law school at Gonzaga over in Spokane, and then came here right out of law school in fall of 1997. And Don Bell gave me my first job as a public defender, and most people in this town still won't talk to him because of that.
So what made you come to Wenatchee? I mean,
I just needed a job.
Really?
And I wanted to stay. I wanted to stay in Eastern Washington.
Yeah.
I really liked my 4 years at Central and my 3 years in Spokane. So I like Eastern Washington.
I love it too. That's a great place to live.
Good
now,
place to live.
how is Don doing these days? I know
He's retired actually. Yeah, and he has a twin brother who's an attorney as well. I'm not sure if he's retired over in Sequim. They do look remarkably similar. I'm sure what Don is doing is whatever his wife tells him to do, because that was always Don's thing. His wife always bossed him around, so I'm sure that hasn't changed.
That's cool. And how long did you work for him?
I worked for him for 4 years, and then Steve Woods and I, Steve had a different partner that left, and Steve Woods and I got together. We started Woods and Brangwin in January of 2002.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it's been 16 years you've been.
Yeah.
Okay. And how do you like that? You know, being your own boss, having your own firm, that type of thing?
I don't think, I'm not an employee type. It's a lot better if I work for myself. I can kind of do what I want and do things the way I want. I have partners to answer to. They're not always happy with me.
Yeah.
I view it as my job to kind of make waves, and I'm pretty good at that.
Well, they have a class for that in law school, aren't they? How to, how to stir things up.
Ruffles people's feathers, yeah. That's been the highlight of my career, is getting people mad at me.
And you do it very well.
Yeah,
you do it really well.
If you're gonna do something, do it right.
We used to, at the police department, we used to occasionally. You weren't the worst. There was somebody we disliked more than you.
Well, that's good.
Okay.
Actually, I don't feel like people dislike me. It's just I irritate. I'm more of an irritant than someone you don't like, because I think I do my job well.
Yeah,
and I think everybody respects that. So, but I can be an irritant for sure.
Okay. Well, honestly, what it is, I mean. There's two things. First of all, we as cops would screw up sometimes. I remember my first trial that I had to go to court and testify at a trial was a DUI, and I did a terrible job. No, I was rotten. I was horrible, and the temptation was to walk out and say, oh, the justice system's screwed, blah, blah, blah. But no, I faced up to it and said, no, I did a bad job. So I got a book on courtroom testimony and actually learned something. But the other thing that's frustrating is when you do things right. I would tell the younger cops this: it doesn't matter what you do, an attorney's always going to question something. But that's their job. That's their job. That's what they're going to do.
Right.
And you have to prepare for that as best you can. So.
Yeah, and some police take it personally, but most don't. So yeah. It's fun to joke about all the cops hating me, but I certainly don't hate them, because I make my house payment off their work, so I love the police.
Well, that's kind of interesting. I once read a philosophical article that asked, is it fair to make your living off other people's misfortune? And somebody said, well, of course, it's terrible. And they said, well, what about a guy who works at a body shop?
Right.
In my business too. I'm counseling people when they have problems, and
my practice, I definitely see people at their worst. They're accused of crimes. They've been in a car accident. They've been injured at work. So I do see people at tough times. I like to be a problem solver. That's what people are really paying me to do, is solve the problem they bring me. Sure. And I do my best to get I always solve the problem. Exactly how well the problem gets solved is really case dependent.
Sure. Now, is that part of the motivation for why you're in the field you're in, because you do want to help people? Because that's, when you go to somebody in the helping professions, a cop, nurses, people in the ministry, they want to help people. That's why they're there. And is that kind of the same motivation for you?
I got into DUI because it's technical. There's some science involved with the breath testing. It's the only crime I'm aware of that an opinion gets you convicted. So if the officer's opinion is that you're DUI, you can be convicted on just somebody's opinion. Mm-hmm. There's no really other crime that an opinion can get you convicted.
That's interesting. I never heard of it put that way.
Yeah. And the best thing about DUIs is that anyone can get them. I've represented police officers, doctors, lawyers, every profession, and so, as I like to say, it's a better class of criminals. So.
Well, true enough. I remember shortly after I got out of the academy, I was bringing somebody to the jail, and the guy who was then chief of the Rock Island Police Department. He had been the academy class before me. It was back when Rock Island actually had a police.
Yep, I remember that.
Hey, Randy, how you doing? And just kind of grunted at me, you know. And finally, somebody came and picked him up. He got up and left, and there were 2 state troopers sitting there, and I was saying, boy, well, Randy was in a piss poor mood. And they said, well, maybe because we just arrested him for DUI. And then there was a county sheriff, undersheriff, who had written a book on, you know, experience he had arrested DUI. So it was picked up by Jill Shaw, former officer with Wenatchee PD.
There was
still be there.
Douglas County Commissioner got a DUI, and there was a little bit of a scandal about how that was handled. So yeah, everyone can get them. I mean, if you drive a car, you can get a DUI, even if you don't drink. Because pretty much everybody takes prescription medications.
Sure.
We get a lot of prescription medication DUIs. We have marijuana DUIs, and we have alcohol DUIs. And people sometimes think that the 08 legal limit is I get off, there's no DUI if I'm under 08, and that's just not true.
Right, exactly. A lot of people don't know that. You're right.
I have a case right now, 03 DUI. I have a case in court this afternoon at 05. So you can be accused of DUI even at a relatively low breath alcohol level. So.
Okay.
So it's been a great practice for me. I stick with misdemeanor defense. I defend other misdemeanors. Only felonies I'll defend is if they involve a motor vehicle. So
now,
felony DUI.
Why is that? Just
I think, you know, the day and age of an attorney that can kind of do everything, I think is really outdated, and so I really like to concentrate on what I do, and I don't get to Superior Court that much with felonies, and so I would prefer to do the misdemeanors and really know my way around district court. And I have a good friend, Brandon Radel, that I refer most of my felony cases to, and so and he doesn't do DUI, so it's kind of a good relationship there. So I just stay away from felonies.
Okay, makes sense.
Plus, yeah, I don't really want to defend people accused of child molestation. Brandon seems to love that.
I actually had a guy once that's what I was charging him with, and he insisted on talking to an attorney. So I called up, you know, everybody would know this guy's name if I named him, because he was, you know, well known for doing criminal work. And so I called him up and I said, this gentleman would like to talk to you. He's asked for you specifically. And the attorney said, what's he being charged with? I said, molesting a child. He says, oh, I don't want that kind of business. Slammed down. So I looked at the guy and I said, the attorney doesn't want to talk to you. What do I do now? I said, pick somebody else.
Yeah, be quiet would be the best thing.
Right.
Don't talk.
Okay, so holidays and DUI, holidays and impaired drivings. So
Right, so we have a lot of office Christmas parties. We have a lot of kind of unplanned drinks with coworkers. And I find that the Christmas parties, people are usually pretty good about planning. Hey, I know I'm going to the office Christmas party. I know I'm going to drink. I'll have a transportation. Employers provide transportation. I feel that more of the DUIs come from the unplanned celebration. Hey, let's get together after work, or we close the office early and you have a few too many drinks and someone drives home. You know, people always ask me, what's the best way to get out of a DUI? And the best way is to not get one in the first place.
Not get one in the first place, exactly right.
So if you think you've had too much to drink and drive, I certainly don't encourage anyone to drink and drive. It is dangerous. Accidents are caused by, as are cell phones. You know, the texting
horrible.
and driving, I think, may be equally as bad as drinking and driving. So stay off your phones as well. But for some people, you know, you make that mistake, you get behind the wheel and you start driving, and so then it's kind of, what do you do next? There is a defense in the law, not to DUI, but to physical control, that if you pull off the roadway safely before law enforcement starts chasing you, it can be a defense. So if you're behind the wheel and you're like, wow, I've had too much to drink, park, get off the road and get out of your car. So
Can I add something to that?
Sure.
Take the keys out of the ignition, turn the car off, because I did have a couple, you know, physical control that I arrested that actually flew, even though one guy was off in a parking lot, but in part was because his keys were still in the car, and I think the car was running, and that I think was the deciding thing.
Yeah, so the car has to be safely off the roadway, so then it's going to be a jury question. It's not like something you can get the case dismissed. It's a jury question of if it was safely off the roadway, and some jurors might say, no, if it was running, it wasn't safely off the roadway. So like you say, turn off the
turn off and take the keys out of the ignition and don't. So
Exactly.
Okay, so you know, let's take a break.
Okay.
Okay, we're going
Sounds
to come
good.
back. But we're talking with Mr. John Brangwin. He is an expert. His area of expertise in criminal defense is impaired driving. Had him on here specifically today so we can talk about it, so you get some information about how you can avoid something like this. Because like he said, he certainly doesn't want people driving intoxicated. It is dangerous, but it is something people do, and it's an area where people need the help of a good defense attorney.
Absolutely.
So we're going to talk more about that when we get back. But Street Talk and other stuff, you stick around. We'll be right back. So.
Collins Fashions has your lifestyle in mind. Casual to special occasions, head-to-toe styling, foundations to shoes, jewelry, scarves, handbags, awesome gifts too. Denim brands from Liverpool, Not Your Daughter's Jeans, French dressing, all fits and sizes. Slacks from Joseph Ribkoff, Renoir, Tribal, and Elliott Lauren. Easy care and flattering. Stylish sweaters from Icelandic, Curio, and Tribal. Great selection of cashmere sweaters and scarves too. We always have you in mind at Collins Fashions in downtown Wenatchee.
Stormy Mountain Brewing and local public house, featuring great family dining in downtown Chelan. We've got burgers, pub fare, and the best barbecue around. Try one of our award-winning sauces made fresh here in-house. So grab the whole gang and come on down. Stormy Mountain Brewing. Beer, barbecue, friends, and beer.
If you are looking for dependable car service and repair, visit the good guys at Quick Lube and Tune. They've been keeping cars and trucks in the Wenatchee Valley running smooth for 35 years. Quick Lube and Tune is your hometown shop for a 10-minute oil change, complete tune-ups, alignments, brakes, mufflers, air conditioning service, and more. Get more life out of your vehicle by bringing it to the local guys you can trust at Quick Lube and Tune on South Wenatchee Avenue.
Eastern Washington. It's a great place to call home and a great time to own a home. It's the ideal place to lay down roots for your family and your future. Gisa Credit Union thinks Eastern Washington is a great place to own a home too. That's why we offer all kinds of home loans with personal attention every step of the way. We're your home. For home loans, we're Gisa Credit Union.
Okay, we're back. Street Talk and other stuff. My guest today is Mr. John Brangwin. His area of expertise as a criminal defense attorney is in the area of impaired driving. And we want to talk today about the upcoming holidays and how there is an uptick in this type of behavior during this and how you can avoid it. So, over the course of the time that you've done this, what have you seen as the public reaction, public attitude towards, impaired driving? And
Yeah, this is anecdotal. I don't have the actual statistics,
that's fine.
but I've definitely.
It doesn't matter. No one's fact checking me.
Right.
Neither you or I are running for office. So,
I've definitely seen a kind of an overall decrease, especially in the higher BAC levels. I mean, people have adjusted their behavior. There has been a change, but there's still plenty of DUI offenses that occur. The other thing I've seen, though, is the police making arrests at lower and lower levels with less and less evidence. So in other words, I'm seeing these 03 arrests where I think people would have been let go. I'm seeing a 05 being charged with DUI. 05 breath test legal limit, of course, is 08. So I'm seeing more of that. Since marijuana is legal, we've seen an increase in marijuana DUIs. Very easy to get a marijuana DUI. I'd really caution anyone that smokes marijuana, you cannot smoke marijuana and then drive. The legal limit of 5 nanograms, there's studies that say that that's roughly equivalent of an 03 alcohol level.
Okay.
So that, in other words, if we wanted to have an 08 for marijuana, it should be 14 nanograms, but it's 5. But what I remind pot smokers is it's a legal limit, so it doesn't matter that you're not impaired. It's a legal limit. It'd be no different if they set the speed limit on 990 at 45 miles an hour. You go through there at 75. It's not a valid defense to say, well, but I was safe at 75. No, the speed limit is 45, so it's a ticket. So the marijuana users really have to be careful.
So how are the cops testing for that? Because back, again, I've been retired a long time, but you had to be a drug recognition expert to be able to say, if I remember correctly, somebody was under, was impaired due to drug use?
So we have less qualified officers making the opinion, officers that aren't drug recognition evaluators making the opinion, and then they're often getting a voluntary blood draw, which no one should ever volunteer to give their blood up ever, but lots of people do. Or they get a search warrant and then they test it. And like I said, the legal limit is so low for marijuana that if you've recently smoked, you're going to be over 5 nanograms.
So what kind of probable cause are they using for marijuana?
Smell, bloodshot eyes, lack of coordination. Same as about alcohol. DUI.
Okay. But, and I know there are certain standard tests you use for alcohol.
Right.
Field sobriety tests.
They use the same ones.
They do? Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a little bit about avoiding DUIs. Kind of, number one, don't drink and drive if you, like we talked about, don't drink and drive if you think you're impaired, don't drive. Next, if you are behind the wheel, it's what I call break one law at a time, all right? You'll remember your police days that many crimes are solved because a person breaks more than one law at a time. In other words, they've just robbed a bank and then they speed away. Police officer has no idea a bank's being robbed, but pulls them over for speeding. Turns out it's the bank robber. So break one law at a time. So if you're already drinking and driving, don't have a burned out taillight, don't run a stop sign. You know, break one law at a time. Okay, now.
Because I will say, rarely did I pull over somebody for DUI due to poor driving. It was usually for something else.
Right.
So
the license plate lights out, could be anything. So break one law at a time. But then the main question I'm asked at cocktail parties is, you know, what do I do if I get pulled over? And it is a great question. And I harken back to, I grew up in the Nancy Reagan DARE era, and it was just say no. And that is my advice for people when it comes to law enforcement, is just say no. By that I mean, anytime law enforcement asks you to do something voluntary, the answer is no thank you. If you're ordered, anything a police officer orders you to do, even if the order is improper, we'll deal with that later in court. You follow any order given. But anything that's voluntary, anything you're asked to do, the answer needs to be just say no.
Well, what do they have to do? I mean, I know the answer to that.
You have to give your license and registration and proof of insurance, so have those handy. Don't have to dig for those, because they're looking at everything. From the moment the lights come on, they're looking at how you pull your car over, they're looking at how you speak to them, if you answer them, if you look them in the eye, if you have your license ready. So have your license, registration, proof of insurance, and give that to them. And that's really ends your requirements on a traffic stop. You don't have to discuss where you're going. You don't have to discuss where you've been. You can just politely say, oh, no, thank you. I gave you my license registration. And it's difficult to do, but it's what you need to do.
Can people refuse to do field sobriety tests?
Absolutely. Okay. And you should. 100% of the time, even if you've had nothing to drink, you should never do field sobriety tests. Those roadside tests, no one should volunteer to do, and they are voluntary. Lots of times clients come into my office, I say, why did you do the field sobriety test? And they say, well, I thought I had to do them. I thought I was going to lose my license if I didn't do them. No, they're voluntary. There's no repercussion for not doing them. Same with, I brought one. This is a Alka-Sensor FST, made by Intoximeters. This is what is called a preliminary breath test or a portable breath test. This generally is the last field sobriety test a police officer will do. And again, many times my clients say to me, they've given a PBT and it's over the legal limit, which is then probable cause to make an arrest. Sure. And I said, well, why'd you blow? I said, well, I had to blow. I was going to lose my license. Not blowing in this absolutely, positively will not cost you your license. No, other than at a cocktail party, if someone pulls this out for fun, no one should ever blow into a PBT, ever. That's my biggest point of advice. Okay. And so, in fact, I very recently had a case where a police officer, my client, got pulled over because he was driving his parents' car, and the headlights were automatic, but the parking lights came on, so that's why they got pulled over. No problems driving. Got out, did all 3 field sobriety tests, which again I would tell someone not to do. Passed them all, by the officer's own admission, passed them all, but then the officer said, oh, something my boss has asked me to do is have people give a PBT. And so would you mind giving me one? It's voluntary, but would you mind doing it? It'd really help me out. And he did, and it was over 0.08. So as soon as it was over 0.08, that's probable cause to make the arrest, and everything went downhill from there. So never ever blow into one of these.
Okay, but I will say, I mean, when you get to that point, I mean, there's other stuff you've noticed. There's the smell, there's the slurred speech. like you say, there's the, the bloodshot eyes.
1,000-yard stare.
Yeah, there's a number of things the officers pick up on that lead them to say, will you please do this now?
Sure, and the answer should be no.
Okay.
And then if you're arrested anyway because of that, then we can challenge in court, did the officer have enough of the things you're talking about? Did the officer have enough to make an arrest? But don't give them more evidence against yourself. If you've put yourself in this bad situation, it's the old adage, what's the first thing you should do if you find yourself in a hole? Put the shovel down. And in my line of work, putting the shovel down is not doing field sobriety tests, not providing a portable breath
But
test
cops,
sample.
you need, at this point, you need to be prepared to articulate your reasons, okay? You can't just, say, well, the guy was obviously drunk. You need to be able to speak well. You need to be able to articulate your reasons. You be able to say specifically, due to your experience and your training, what you saw that led you to believe this person was intoxicated.
If police want to beat my challenge, that's exactly what they're going to have to do.
All right.
They're going to have to coherently convey that they had enough probable cause to make a custodial arrest for DUI absent field sobriety tests.
Now, what have you seen police do wrong? Okay, you mentioned earlier, we were talking off camera about them cutting corners.
Right, so a lot of times when I am able to either win a DUI case or get a reduction, it's because a police officer has made some type of error that's usually cutting corners. Pulled over a vehicle and didn't have a good reason to. That's a big challenge. Made an arrest and shouldn't have. The breath testing process, the real breath test at the station, that's the one where someone can lose their license and will lose their license for both not blowing in it and for blowing over .08. Those are both ways that the Department of Licensing is going to take your license. So I've seen operators, the officer, make mistakes in that. So cutting a corner, doing something wrong, the machine gives an error message, they don't handle it properly. So mistakes like that. So,
Okay, and what have you seen the cops do well? Okay.
The police that I think do the best job against me are the police, and a lot of state troopers do it this way, that concede every gotcha question I ask them. So every time I ask them a question that is a favorable answer to me, instead of fighting me on it, a lot of police officers want to fight me on it. That looks bad for them. When they say, no, that's right, Mr. Brangwin. Oh, no, you're absolutely right. He pulled his car over fine. No, yes. The ones that really go along well, but then still come to the conclusion, even though you brought up all those things, I still thought they were drunk. Those officers do much better than the ones that fight me. Nothing better for me than a police officer that wants to fight with me, right? It's a little bit like a heckler with a stand-up comedian. The stand-up comedian has the microphone, so they're always going to beat the heckler. I have the floor in the courtroom. I'm always going to beat the police officer that's trying to fight.
No, tell the truth. Right. I mean, I used to tell younger cops that there's one thing a defense attorney can't beat, and that's when you tell the truth. If you screwed up, admit it. Okay, don't try to argue with them. It's your ball game.
Yeah. Well, I'm really an instructor of law enforcement. I'm just teaching them one case at a time.
Okay. Well, Don Bell used to say that. He used to say that his job was to see that people got convicted according to the rules.
Well, okay. I'd rather not the conviction.
All right, well, look, I'm sorry. We gotta stop. We gotta take a quick break, and then we'll be back. Just got a few more words to say. But hey, street talk and other stuff. Talking with Mr. John Brangwin, expertise in impaired driving defense. But stick around. We'll be right back.
Tacos Chava has something new. Customers at Tacos Chava say it's the best Mexican food around. Nachos, enchiladas, tortas, ensaladas. And introducing camarones in many styles. You'll love the fresh salsa bar with so much selection. Are you ready for Tacos Chava? Find them at 2 great locations, the Wenatchee Valley Mall and ENIAC. Tacos Chava, tan delicioso.
Okay, I just want to close real quick with Mr. Brangwin. I just want to say that when I posted on Facebook that you were going to be here, another officer who I'm familiar with who's still working has said he's got a lot of respect for you. You do a good job. You keep him on your toes, and you've always treated him with professional respect. So I do want to appreciate that.
Thank you.
Street talk and other stuff.
Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays. We'll see you next week. Have a great day. Bye-bye.